What's the deal, y'all? We back with another episode of Politics as usual, right here on the Ethos Media Network. Make sure you like, you share, and you subscribe. You know what I mean? Definitely appreciate all of the support. We almost up to 500 subscribers on the channel. Go ahead and subscribe, please. Share the content if you find this interesting. You know what I mean? If you agree with any of my points, if you disagree with any of my points, share the video. But what we're gonna do today is we're gonna have a little bit of fun because if you guys know, one of the themes of this show is we speak about how the media is all on one accord. No matter what channel you go to, you're pretty much going to get the exact same message. Um, Now, one of the things that they pride themselves on is being arbiters of the truth and saying that misinformation is a bad thing, can't be, we can't allow propaganda out there, all that kind of stuff, right? So I just want you all to take a look at this video with me. It's about a minute and a half. We'll watch the whole thing, and then we'll react.
We're extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about trouble and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news on social media, more alarming. Some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false.
Hi, I'm Fox Senator's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
The El Paso, Las Cruces communities.
Eastern Iowa communities.
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about trouble and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous. Democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is dangerous to our democracy.
And there you have it. So, there's so many different versions of that you can actually that you can type in and it'll tell you the same thing. You can just type in all news saying the same thing. You can type in multiple news stations repeating the same words. You can type in basically anything like that, and you're going to get different variations of not just that exact video, but different things that they've said where everybody is literally saying the exact same thing. And it's like, who's handing them the script? Because if it's verbatim, then it's beyond just, we all have the same ideas. It's beyond, Democrats think this way, Republicans think this way. So if you're watching one of those two types of channels, then that's what you're going to get. It's deeper than that when everybody's literally being handed a script. Everybody's saying the exact same thing, word for word. And it's funny because their message is all about trying to stop fake information, disinformation, misinformation, things like that. That's their whole goal that they say. That's what they're telling you their goal is, which is why they want to, be able to censor voices that they deem as misinformation. They want to basically be the authority on truth. And when you see that, when you see everybody saying the exact same thing, like I said, they're being handed a script. At that point, how do we decipher if they're telling the truth or not, or if there's an agenda at play? And a lot of times when people say the word agenda, obviously it's like, oh, like, are you getting in conspiracy territory and all this kind of stuff? It's like, no, you don't need a conspiracy when it's out in the open. You know what I mean? When everybody's um, goals line up, you don't need a conspiracy because it already is going to work out for everybody. So there's no reason really for there to be a conspiracy. But this, how many different news stations was that? And those were all over the country. Those weren't all in the same area. Those were in multiple states, multiple cities. And they all literally were saying the exact same script word for word. So, like I said, my question to everybody is, when you see that, do you think that you can trust the media? Do you think that you can actually, yeah, like, because I see that and I don't trust the media. Immediately, that makes me go, oh, okay, well, y'all are lying. Like, because if everybody who reports on the news was all doing individual reporting, even if they reach the same conclusions, they're probably gonna find some slight differences in the details, how they deliver that information, etc. If they're doing their own reporting and they have their own reporters out there on the ground and all that kind of stuff, and they're really just like journalists. But again, if everybody's reading the same script and they're all concluding it the same way too, this is dangerous for our democracy. No, what I think is dangerous for our democracy is every single news channel being handed a script and being told what to say. That's what I think is more dangerous than, whatever, like, there's a misinformation and all of that kind of stuff. Because it turns out most of the time what you guys label misinformation is actually very correct information. Most of the time. They used to say if you didn't believe that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, that you were speaking misinformation. Turns out that was true. There's a lot of more recent examples of things that were labeled as misinformation that turned out to be 100% accurate. Things that we always knew, if you know how biology works, and you know how certain things that can, make you not, make you feel under the weather, you know what I mean? Certain things that we've grown up with, we always knew that if you, just let it pass, then basically you'd build up the immunity to be able to fight that off. But for some reason, a lot of people tried to apply that same logic to a new thing that happened in recent years, but for whatever reason, that logic was like laughed at the time. It was like, why would that work? Like, that's crazy. We don't, you know what I mean? And it's like, wait, but that's how we treat everything else. Like, if you catch it, and you good after you passes through your system, like, then you're more prepared to fight it next time. Like, that was always the thing. So the fact that, they tried to say that wasn't what it was, you know what I mean? Like, there's, so I'm quite clearly trying to be careful about my language in this part of the video because y'all know what I'm talking about. But, since this is a relatively new channel, can't jump off the deep end quite yet, so, but y'all get what I'm saying. There's a lot of misinformation about that. About, the potential remedies that they had for that ended up not really being remedies. So, all I'm saying is if everybody in the media is on one accord, and that's an exact transcript to show you how much they're on one accord. But if they're realistically going to be on one accord, even in just the messaging, even if it's not verbatim word for word, but the major point that I really wanted to exercise today was not necessarily the verbatim word for word thing, but like I said, they're all on the same page, they're all on one accord delivering the same message. If you watch Sean Hannity on Fox News, he talks about how evil Putin is and how we need to put a stop to him and go to war and all that stuff. how China is our biggest enemy and how we should be trying to, gear up for war with them. But if you watch Rachel Maddow, she says the same thing. Putin's evil. We need to be ramping up, trying to get him up out of here. And they're the two opposite sides of the coin, quote unquote. But if you watch the media, you would think that. But that's a really important policy, trying to avoid a world war, nuclear war potentially, and they're both on the same page. So what does that tell you? It tells you wherever the money's at is the important trail to follow. If you want to know what's going to happen, or you want to know the decisions that people are going to make, follow that money. That was an earlier episode of this series. Definitely feel free to go check that one out, but follow the money. That's how you'll always know what the motivation is. We're going to break down in a later episode, who actually owns all of these companies, what their other ties are, and you'll see how it kind of all works together. We did this briefly with some politicians where we discussed, why they vote the way they vote, why some of them change their votes, and it's based on money. It's based on who's funding them, where they have investments, things like that. So we're going to do more of a deep dive on that, but we're going to be talking about who owns, CNN, who owns Fox, who owns MSNBC. You get what I'm saying? Like, we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about, once you get to the top, what else their hands are in. And when you start to make those connections, then a lot of this will start to make a lot more sense. It'll be like, oh, that person owns this cable network, and they also have a bunch of stock in this defense contractor, so it makes sense that they would want their cable network to promote a war that will ultimately make them more rich. And then if people are scared, then they're going to be tuning into TV, which is going to boost the ratings because they want to know what's going on, so I get to make my money both ways. Is that cynical? I don't think so, given, based on, everything we've talked about in these 23 episodes of Politics as Usual. I don't think that's cynical. I think that's just accurate at this point. So, that's all I really got for you, though. I definitely want y'all to definitely check it out on YouTube yourself. Just type in, like I said, all news saying the same thing, news repeating each other's quotes, just however you want to phrase it. I don't want you to use my exact one. And I want you to see how many examples pop up. CNN actually did their own version of this. They covered it themselves. Let me see if I can pull that up actually really quick. Because that one's really funny, because in one of those, there was actually a CNN clip in one of them. And they were talking about, we're not all in the same. Yeah, so this is on CNN. And let's play it.
Sinclair Broadcasting and its conservative bent. This is a company that owns stations all across the country. And last month I reported that the company was mandating its local stations to produce these media bashing promos. There's been a lot of angst in local newsrooms about this. Now we're actually seeing the promos. So I want to show you what they look like. This is a compilation courtesy of Deadspin that's gone viral this weekend. Just a little taste of what these promos look like.
The sharing of biased and
False news all too common on social media. More alarming platforms push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous.
I think you get the idea there. Let's go markets. We're required to read this script. It's attacking fake news, but really what it's doing, it's kind of like the Fox Fair and Balanced slogan. It's a way of saying we're fair, everybody else is biased. It's taking a page out of Trump's playbook. And I've been talking to staffers in markets, David, that say they're sickened by this, they're uncomfortable with it. Quote, my staff is up in arms about this. Zerwick, you're in Baltimore. Sinclair is based right up the road. What's your impression?
Brian, I've been reporting this story, as you know, since last summer. My first concern was when they hired Boris Epstein from the Trump White House and made him the chief political analyst, made him a political analyst, and stations were.
Okay. We're done there. But what's the funny thing that I want you guys to notice about what they just started saying there? When did the whole fake news, misinformation, disinformation stuff started. It started under Trump, right? That's really when it like got ramped up as far as being part of the public conversation. It's because he used to say fake news all the time, right? But when did it really get ramped up? It got ramped up after Trump left office, Joe Biden took office, and that thing that was going around the world was still in full swing. That was when all the disinformation, misinformation stuff really got prevalent. It was because of people like Joe Rogan, who was going on his YouTube show, or his podcast rather, saying things, you know, challenging doctors like Sanjay Gupta, you know, different things like that. It was people like Jimmy Dore who were having doctors on, people who invented the mRNA technology, telling them how certain things worked, how certain things don't work. You know, I can't remember the guy's name right now, but there's another doctor who basically breaks down studies as soon as they're available with all the available information, and then gives you the plain reading of the study. Right. So when a lot of these people were starting to get popular on YouTube and on Twitter and things like that, that's when everybody on the Democrat side, which CNN would be on the Democrat side, they were all saying, we can't allow this disinformation and misinformation because it's going to be dangerous to our democracy and it's going to be harmful to people and yada, yada, yada. That was the message of every one of those news anchors that we was just watching. Like when they started popping up smaller and smaller, and they just tried to blame that whole thing on Trump because they know it looks crazy. How crazy is that? The fact that they are the people who push the whole, we can't even allow misinformation or disinformation to be out there because people are too stupid and they'll start doing things that, you know, aren't good for them. And all it is, right? Like, that was the whole thing. Like, let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was basically the whole argument as far as why censorship was good. And they don't even want to still call it censorship because they'll just try to, but that's what it is. Anytime you're silencing somebody who's not saying anything illegal, that's censorship. So the fact that whether it's a public or private company doing it, it is still censorship. Now, you can have your opinion on whether or not that's cool or not. That's fine. But that's what it is. So, I say all that to say, man, like, you know, it's just interesting to me that when they realized that they got caught and it was like, oh, this looks horrible, let's blame Trump for it. Because the Sinclair people, one of the dudes was, you know, that revolving door, he was part of Trump's crew. So we're going to act like, you see what I'm saying? Like, even though that's the narrative that they all push. So I just find it interesting. But y'all let me know, man. This is Shane G. This is Politics as Usual right here on the Ethos Media Network. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe for all the latest content. Bar exam drops every Monday. And we'll catch you next week right here. Follow me if you want to at Shane_EMN on Twitter and at Shane_Ethos on Instagram. Appreciate y'all's support. Catch you next week.